Welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's largest platform for entrepreneurs. If you have any questions related to any aspect of your business, we've got it covered here on the show. I'm Sunanda Jayaseelan. Today, we're continuing our special series on the Eye on Dubai, talking about opportunities and challenges for entrepreneurs that are looking at the Dubai market and also why Dubai is a great place to do business for entrepreneurs like yourself. Let me talk then about what we're doing on the show tonight, discussing India Dubai economic ties, what the next phase of growth is looking like. Our experts tonight are Dr. Ashraf Mahate, Chief Economist for Trade and Export Market Development at Dubai Exports, Amine Staali, Co-founder and Chief R&D Officer at ProvenMed. Thank you to the two of you for joining us here on the show. I want to talk about the headline that we have really here on the leaders of tomorrow and economic ties and what the next phase of growth is. And you really talk to us about how things have evolved over the past decade.
Sure, thank you. And certainly a pleasure to be here on this panel. UAE and Dubai more specifically with India, the trade relationships have existed for many, many decades. But I think over the last decade, they've evolved into a different level. And from my own personal perspective from Dubai Exports, I feel extremely privileged and honored to say that the first event we held when we established Dubai Exports was actually in India. And the reason this was because the country is a very important trade partner. Consistently in the last 10 years, India has been one of the top 3 trade partners for the UAE and for Dubai. I don't want to go too much into the numbers, but just to say that total non-oil exports from UAE to India were 15.5 billion US dollars. And from India to the UAE were $29.5 billion, which is about $45 billion of total trade. Also, interestingly, the largest segment of enterprises or establishments here are from the Indian community, a number of 65,000. And again, the very strong FDI inflows both directions. So the relationship is both trade, investment, networks. It's very evolved.
As Dr. Ashraf said, the relationship between Dubai and India is historical. It has a long history. As far as we see, there is a lot of sectors where Indians are you can say, literally leading here in terms of economy, and that's a result. Of the cooperation between the two economies. The innovation point of view, where I specialize in healthcare innovation, I can tell you that the platform is ready to, for a very high level expansions and explorations, because when you talk about the innovation, you need that talent and you need that support of the Indians, and that's the asset that makes innovation grow. Of course, the current innovation ecosystem, which has evolved a lot in the UAE. So currently, it's even bigger platform to grow using these two assets. So there is definitely a bright future in that direction.
What sectors and areas are great and beneficial for mutual cooperation? What could you tell us?
I mean, if I were to answer that question, I mean, when we look at the historical trade, it's revolved around largely gold and jewelry. I mean, even now when we look at the trade, 56% of exports are gold and jewelry. And there are very good reasons for that. India is a very large consumer of gold and jewelry products. Dubai has certain synergies that it can offer. And then the UAE, of course, also exports plastics, copper, and building materials. But going forward, and this is where I see the greatest potential, is in advanced engineering and manufacturing. The Make It in India campaign where now India is a global hub for technologically advanced manufacturing, design. Already,
Sure.
manufacturing is expected to contribute to 25% of GDP by 2022, which is next year. It's not very far. And the Make in India campaign, as you're aware, has identified 25 sectors. So this is, again, very important. Digital trade. Um, India is the world's third largest IT literate country with over 600 million internet users, very high mobile phone penetration. And then you cannot ignore green technology, right? India announced last year a 10 billion budget, 10 billion US dollar budget to create a green economy. And this is where we see a lot of synergy as we go towards renewable energy. And my own personal favorite, I work a lot with young people, is creative industries. A lot of collaboration in creative industries. And again, India
Sure.
has a remarkable industry here, 31 billion US dollars in the creative industry sector. And we see a lot of collaboration. And the good thing is that young people can collaborate virtually. And that's exactly what they're doing. So we see new and more technologically enabled trade taking place.
I can tell you from where I am, we're going to see a lot of technology startups, coming from India and then developing their technologies using platform in
Sure.
the Dubai platform and ecosystem, and growing to the world. And then that will result to not only benefits the both economies, but even internationally. And if I can highlight some sectors, I can
Okay.
I can say the scientific research, the technology and the IT, the agri-tech, very, very important, food security, healthcare. I think these are on the top of the list, plus also the sustainability area. These are, natural synergy between, India and Dubai. And we're going to see a lot of startups coming in this field, in the next coming years.
So from a trade and technology perspective, what are some of the advantages or benefits that you see the India market being in a position to offer?
I think last year has certainly been a change for everybody. It's the one disruption that's affected every single country, every single
Okay.
socio-economic. Nobody has escaped from what has happened last year. And as
Sure.
I've been saying, since the very first webinar, which I did last April, once you see something, you cannot unsee it. What COVID has taught us is a different way of living. It's taught us a different way of doing business. I don't think even after the post-COVID period, will we go back to the old ways of doing business. And so a lot
Okay.
of this is changing. So, for example, I believe that supply chains will be disrupted. We'll be moving towards near supply chains with multiple sources. We'll be moving away from just in time to just in case. We'll be also
Okay.
sharing more data so that
Okay.
our supply chains are more coordinated, more interlinked. But I'd also like to go back to what Amine said in terms of the sectors. Post COVID, we see a greater opportunity for collaboration in pharmaceuticals and medtech, right? Um, I think medtech or medical technology,
Sure.
more in terms of medical technology that can be used from an outsourced basis. What do I mean here?
Okay.
Well, it's that we have realized that we are quite fearful of going into public areas, including
Yeah.
hospitals. So the idea,
Yeah.
how do you bring this medical technology at home? So if I have COVID, for example, I want to test my oxygen levels. I can just go
Sure.
into an online portal and I can buy an oxygen meter, right? So really
Sure.
is how to supply this. Also, we see a greater change and a greater move towards fintech, where fintech will play a great role because people are moving towards contactless payment, contactless purchasing, right? And the
Sure.
third one, again, the biggest disruption, and it's for me, it's amazing. 8 years of e-commerce took place in 9 months. 8 years of growth in e-commerce took place in nine
Okay.
months. Nothing has been seen like this before. So digital trade for me will be the biggest disruptor. We have seen B2C digital trade. We haven't seen B2B digital trade, right? So for me, post-COVID, we'll see a greater use of B2B digital trade.
Earlier, before COVID-19, um, let's say organizations and stakeholders, they were aiming to innovate, right? But they were still feeling that still they are not pushing it, right? By kind of a big and a fast transformation. But in COVID, it was like push for that. Now everybody is thinking of this is the continuation. It's not like post-COVID we're gonna stop, innovating in those sectors. It's gonna be a continuation. We're gonna see everything turning into contactless. That's like an ongoing natural innovation right now. You're gonna see the more usage of AI-powered solutions. We're gonna try to understand data to help people be healthier and be more increase more safety. One thing which I consider it on the top of the list is the healthcare. The healthcare acceleration in innovation will be the highest, and thanks God there is a lot of talent in India that supports that. We will see a complete change in how hospital functions and operates. Not only the technology, only the device, not only the platform that you log in, even how hospital is designed, what we call the design thinking, that will be disrupted.
Gentlemen, time for a quick commercial break. We're back in just a moment. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. We're continuing our special series on Dubai. Tonight, we're talking about economic ties between India and Dubai and what the next phase of growth is looking like. The UAE-India food corridor, what sort of impact do you expect it to have on future trade, bilateral cooperation? What can you tell us?
Sure. I mean, for me, I have great pleasure when I talk about the UAE as the world's largest re-exporter of fresh fruits and vegetables. And this is quite incredible, bearing in mind that the country has only 1% arable land, yet it's the largest re-exporter of foods, fresh fruits and vegetables. Now, from a food security perspective, the national strategy calls for facilitating food trade and diversifying food imports and sources. So this again has great synergies with India because India has a very large agricultural industry. It's one of the primary occupations for many citizens. The sector accounts for half of the employment and about 18% of GDP. So there's a lot of synergy there. And also, I'm sure you heard last year that about $7 billion US dollars worth of investment is due to flow into India, into the India-UAE food corridor. Now, part of this is to do manufacturing, part of it's to do processing, but we shouldn't forget food security has a very important component, and that important component is food wastage. Globally, about 40% of food is wasted. In India, I believe the figure is more in the region of about 30%. But how can we create, and as Amine said, how can you use data as an enabler to reduce food wastage so that have the information, consumers have the information, and as well as the agri sector has the information in terms of demand, supply. And this is where artificial intelligence, data connectivity will play a very important role.
From a trade standpoint, Indian companies that are looking at Dubai and saying, I want to be able to exploit the opportunities there. How should they really be going about that? What can you tell us?
Yeah, from the trade, there is a huge potential to grow the trade. That the trade has been growing, all the time in the last 10 years, and now it's even the potential is more than ever, especially on the healthcare and the food, these two sectors. Now, from the technology, as I said, the talented entrepreneurs from India and the amazing innovation ecosystem in Dubai, these two things can really multiply into an international amazing technology unicorns. But these two countries they have that natural tie-up which can actually deliver that. And then when you talk about technology, you talk right now is about how to multiply the usage of the artificial intelligence and the machine learning. That's the now and the future. That's what will lead and what will rephrase the whole economy and the whole, opportunities in the world. So I see a lot to be done on that space. And yeah.
Any practical tips that you can offer to our entrepreneurs that are looking at the Dubai market and want to enter? What can you tell them?
Well, I think the opportunities are enormous. I mean, there's a lot of synergy in the sense that India is a wonderful production house, and Dubai has, or the UAE has, a wonderful strategic location and
Sure.
excellent transport links. These transport links allow a farmer in India to cultivate their output, to bring it to the UAE, and to export it to Europe or North America within 48 hours. I mean, just to give a
Okay.
typical example, more than 1,600 daily flights from India to the UAE. There are about 17 flights a day from UAE to the USA. So you can actually bring fresh produce from India to the UAE and to the USA, the other side of the world, and have it from farm to supermarket within 48 hours. And this
Sure.
allows the Indian producer to extract a much higher price for their output. Also, I think another area which has a lot of potential is how Indian producers can capitalize on the UAE's trade agreements. The UAE, for example, is a member of GAFTA, the Greater Arab Free Trade Agreement, which allows
Okay.
tariff-free to 21 Arab countries. The UAE is also a signatory to AFTA, the European Free Trade Agreement with Singapore. So as long as you do value addition in the UAE, you can actually capitalize on these markets. And that gives you another, I mean, if you look at just the MENA region, that gives you another billion population, right? That you can actually capitalize upon. Again, the whole idea about how to capitalize on the logistics connectivity. We have plug and play facilities, so there's no capital investment on the part of the Indian investor. They can use
Sure.
ready-made facilities, and again, linkages to Africa. Interestingly enough, something in the region of about 60% of pharmaceuticals that are exported from India to Africa go through the UAE. And that's because
Okay.
we have special pharmaceutical companies based here with the appropriate facilities and the linkages to Africa. So it's how you
Sure.
actually create these images.
So my last question then, for India and Dubai and the UAE market over the next, say, 5 to 10 years, what do you think that relationship is going to look like? What are some of the highlights as you see it?
Well, if I was to look into my little glass ball here, or my crystal ball, what I would say is that economic relations between the two countries can only get stronger, because
Sure.
there's so many synergies between the two geographies. I can foresee that non-oil trade will increase, and if not double. I also see greater FDI inflows, but I also agree with Amine, a greater collaboration in research, a greater collaboration between startups, and a greater
Sure.
investment in fintech, in health tech or med tech, and also food
Okay.
tech companies. And finally, I think there'll be a greater coming together of digital trade, both in the B2C space and also B2B space.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Completely out of time. Then, for those of you watching at home, thanks so much for tuning in. We're out of time. If you have any feedback for us, our contact details on your screens. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.